Hey guys, it's Ashley, and today we're going to be talking about A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. This is book 2 in the Shades of Magic trilogy, and if you have not gotten on this series yet, what are you doing? This has honestly become my favorite series ever. Like, it's really hard to say that this has topped any Cassandra Clare book or Rick Riordan book or anything like that. Those will always have a special place in my heart, but to be quite honest, at this point in time, these books have topped that by far. Just the characters and the world and the plot. I can't explain to you guys how much I love this series. Like, the first book is good, and this book is better, and then the third book is just outstanding. And if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, let me go ahead and inform you a little bit. So the Shades of Magic trilogy is kind of like a book with 4 different Londons, and this guy Kell who can travel between Londons, and this girl Lila who pickpockets and things, and this other boy Rye who's like the prince and he's gonna take the throne in one of the Londons, and kind of all of these people just kind of get mixed together along with some other people who we meet in this book, and I'm just so super excited to talk to you guys about my thoughts on A Gathering of Shadows, because my Darker Shade of Magic book talk is long ago, and I finally got around to this one, and I just have no regrets. So if you haven't read any of this series yet, you can go check out my Darker Shade of Magic book talk, which I'll leave linked down below as well. That I think gives a more of a non-spoilery section than this one will. So from that, if you haven't read this book yet, you can go ahead and leave now and come back when you have, and we can talk about it. So I'm going to bid you adieu, non-spoilery people. Goodbye. And let's get down to business, because I have a lot to talk about this book. Also, I'm pretty sure a while ago that I heard that this book series was going to be adapted either to film or TV. They better not fuck it up. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started now. So we start this book with Lila, and I'm so happy that we started with Lila, because where we left off in A Darker Shade of Magic was that Lila walked the other way and left Kell in Red London, and she went her own way in Red London, and I'm like, you guys, you just like saved the world together, and you're just gonna like part ways like this. And so I'm so happy that we got to see where Lila was after, I think it's a couple months have passed. We get that whole scene where she steals the copper thief. She pretends that she's in need of help on a boat, and she tricks all of them into taking her up, and then she becomes this badass and takes them all out. And you gotta love Lila. How can you not love Lila at this point? Come on. So something that I hadn't expected was Alucard. I had heard of the name Alucard. I knew that he had some bickering with Kell that was coming, and I was really excited about it, but I hadn't expected him to be the captain of a ship, especially the captain of the Night Spire, which was the ship that Lila was on. And I kind of wanted Lila to have her own ship, but at the same time I knew that like this was a whole new world and she needed to get acclimated before she was able to like take charge for people to take her seriously, you know? But speaking of Alucard, we find out that he like speaks High Royal, and he's a privateer for the Mareshes, and I'm just like, go figure she'd find this ship. And then she kind of like makes this deal with him where she'll keep him company if he teaches her magic and Arnesian, and it's just, yes, I see this friendship. I'm liking this friendship. Let's continue. And then we get into part 2, where we flash to Rye and Kell, and Rye and Kell are having this like horrible thing going on. Rye in this book was so complex with his emotions that sometimes he was confusing me. Like, it was to the point where he was angry at Kell for saving his life, but he was angry because Kell bound his life to Rye's, but he was also angry because Kell felt like he needed to walk on eggshells so that he didn't hurt Rye, but then he was also angry because he didn't feel like he was a real person, but then he was also like, it was just lots of anger for many different reasons, but then he was also really sad, and sometimes he was depressed, and sometimes he was just all over the place, and I love Rye to pieces, but I was just very confused sometimes by him. So then we get into the actual Essen Tosh. It's this tournament that the different places in Red London put on. So there's Arnie's, which is where they are, and then there's Faro, and then there's Vesk. So the Essen Tosh is like this tournament that they put on, where 12 or 6, one of those two numbers, of the best magicians from each country kingdom comes together and kind of fights against each other. And, you know, the one who succeeds is the winner of the Essen Tosh. He's the champion. And we find out that Alucard is on the list, so I know immediately, like, oh my god, Lila's gonna be back in Red London. This is amazing. And then at the same time, I'm thinking, oh my god, the Essen Tosh is a giant competition of magicians. What is going to stop Lila from trying to get in this? Like, I knew right away that Lila was gonna try. Like, there's no stopping her when she wants something, and you know that this is gonna be something that she's gonna want. And we flash to White London for some reason, and I'm just like, can we just go back to Kel and Lila? Like, I don't want to know what's happening in White London. Can we stop? But anyway, so we flash to White London and we meet this girl named Ochka, and she's got the black eye, so I think that she's an Antari, but at the same time she's like been gifted this power. And then we find out Holland's the new king, and I'm like, oh, you knew he wasn't dead. Like, you knew you couldn't just throw his body in Black London and he was going to die and stay there. Like, no. Like, boy, how'd you get free? So something that made me a little bit scared while I was reading was the moment where Kel was taking that letter to Grey London and he finds out that the King of England, who he loved, who was kind of losing his mind, who we met in like the very first chapter of the first book, he had died, and his son, who was very gluttonous and greedy and wanted magic, had taken over as the King of England. And so he was trying to create this like deal with Kel, and he's like, I want magic, you should show me magic, I'm the King of England, you can't deny me. And Kel was like, ha, goodbye, sucker. It makes me very scared how much that he wants magic and what he might be willing to do to get it. I don't know, it makes me very uneasy every time we go to Grey London, to be completely honest. And it was in part 3 where I like had that revelation where I just now realized that Lila is probably an Antari. Oh boy, okay. I feel like I should have seen this coming in book 1 when we find out she had a fake eye. So what's to say that maybe somebody, but when she was younger, carved out her black eye and put in a glass eye? Like, it's possible. It's very possible. And the fact that she grew up in Grey London where there is no magic, she wouldn't have known that she had magic. And so now that she's in Red London and she's using her magic and we're finding out she has more than one ability to control more than one element, I'm just like, why didn't I see this before? So let's go back to Rye for a little bit. I know that I said that he was very confusing, but we start getting into his head. We start getting Rye point of views, and it's really great because I love seeing what he's thinking. At the same time, I hate seeing what he's thinking because he's always thinking something really, really sad and heartbreaking. Like, at this point, I wrote down, I felt so bad for him because he doesn't have magic, and magic is power in Red London, and he always feels like he has to strive to be more because he doesn't have that affinity for magic. He always feels like he has to be a strong king because he doesn't have that magic that makes him strong immediately. And it's just like, when we find out that Rye had planned this entire time for Kel to enter the tournament, I was internally screaming on the inside. I was like, okay, so watch it be Alucard, Lila, and Kel at the very, very, very end, and they all have to battle each other. Even though that didn't happen toward the end, like at the same time, I was just so excited. I love them so much. And then we flash again to White London and we find out more about Holland. So Holland in Black London made this deal with this like raw power called Osaron. He was like, yo, you can use my body, I just want to make my London beautiful again. But Osaron kept wanting like more and more and more, and I'm just like, when is Holland ever going to be free? He was made a prisoner by the Danes for years, and now he's got this black magic stuff in his body and he's a prisoner to that. I feel so bad for him. When is he gonna get his freedom? One scene that I absolutely hated and cannot stand still to this day was the scene where Alucard and Lila were like in the little cabin and they were practicing magic, and all of a sudden Alucard just decides to kiss Lila and make out with her, and she's like into it, and I'm just like, no. And then he ruins it by asking her a personal question about herself, and I'm just like, none of this makes sense right now. Can we stop, please? And then again with Lila and Alucard when they're standing on the deck of the ship and they're talking about their tells, and Alucard goes, oh, you tuck your hair behind your ear, and she goes, yeah, so I can stare down my opponent with my eyes and tell them that I'm coming after them. And he goes, well, and he tells her that she tucks the hair behind her ear to make up for the gap in her vision, and I'm just like, how does he know so much? So let's talk about the Essen Tosh again, because I actually wrote down some notes from Vesk and Pharaoh and things like that. So just to, you know, get this out there, we've got Vesk, who apparently are like the really big people because they believe that the bigger your body is, the more magic that you'll have. So they very much promote very large bodies, so like very broad, very large. And then Pharaoh, on the other hand, they set gems into their face, and they do that, I guess, so that they can have more magic too, because I guess either the number of gems or the color is like a social signifier, and it also tells you how much magic you have or something like that. I think it's really, really interesting to see how different that all of these different kingdoms and countries are within the same world, and how each of them views magic differently. I remember that Victoria Schwab was talking in some interview about how she sculpted the language first, and that's just another thing that I really loved, because Rai, throughout this entire story, we learn that he has a knack for languages, and so he kind of switches between languages to kind of keep the countries and kingdoms satisfied and things like that. And I just think that that's really interesting. So then we get that moment where Lila is back in Red London, and she goes into Kala's tent to repay her debt and to ask Kala to fix her mask and make it better for the Essen Tosh. And Kala tells her that Kel is constantly in the tent and constantly trying to pay off her debt. And Lila goes, I can pay off my own debts. And she goes, no, I think he's in here because he's looking for you. And then the very, very next scene, Kel comes right into the tent and he tries to pay the debt, and Kala's like, oh, it was paid a few minutes ago. And he like sprints right out the tent to try to find Lila. And I just... Throughout this entire book, there was so much suspense and so much anxiety-ridden, like, just... where I needed Kel to know that Lila was in the Essen Tosh, and I needed Lila to know that Kel was there, and I just needed them to come together and realize and see each other and talk to each other. And every moment that they almost did but didn't, I just like was so angry the entire time. I mean, of course, the moment where they finally did notice each other was just that much better for it, but still, I needed it sooner. So Lila goes ahead and just knocks out Stason Elzer and takes his place in the Essen Tosh. And so we actually get to know Hostra more, and Hostra is the royal guard who guards Kel during, you know, while he's just walking around and things. And he's so adorable. And we find out that he has like this knack for balancing, you know, the kind of power that priests have, and that he really needs to be a priest, but he's always wanted to be a royal guard. He makes that flower grow, and I'm just like, boy, what are you doing here? Like, you're too good for this. Can we just talk for a second about Rai and Alucard? We get the moment right before the first, you know, like scene where they all are gonna meet each other for the first time from the Essen Tosh, and Alucard comes into Rai's room and just starts kissing him. And I'm just like, what? It was so great. I loved it so much, but it was so unexpected. I don't know why I hadn't seen it coming, because I've heard so much about Alucard. The moment where they were just in the room and they were just making out, and I was just like, oh my god, I love this so much. And then what makes it even better is that Kel absolutely cannot stand Alucard. Alucard left Rai and completely like shattered his heart, and Kel cannot stand Alucard because of it. And I just like, yay for big brother protectiveness, but nay, because I really love Alucard and Rai, like really, really badly. There was this one moment where Master Tyrion knows that it's Lila instead of Stason Elzer, and so he walks up to her and he says these words that I honestly just thought embodied Lila at the moment, and I had to write them down. He says, I told you to tend your waking power, not cheat your way into an international tournament. And I'm just like, if those words do not embody Lila Bard, I don't know what does. So then we get to the Essen Tosh, where it actually starts, and we start learning a little bit about it. So in each round, a person has to wear a full thing of body armor, and they all have these plates all over them. And so the first person who shatters 10 plates loses, and then the person who shattered the plates wins. I love seeing the way that Rai takes Kel's pain during the tournament. They're both so extremely happy. Kel is happy because he's getting to do something with his power. He's getting to like exert it in some way. And Rai is really happy because Kel is really happy, and he's just taking all of this pain in stride. Again, we're just gonna flash to White London for a second. We get the moment where the collar is introduced. The collar. Now, every time I hear the words collar in a fantasy book, It's never good. It's never a good thing. And the second that I heard the word collar in this book, I immediately got this flashback to Heir of Fire, and I'm thinking, no. No, 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 no. Hell no. It's not happening. This is not happening. So the moment that Lila realizes that Kel is in the match, Kel is fighting Kizimir, and she looks and she sees Rai in the king's window, and he's wincing and he's in pain, and she can notice it, and she looks down and she realizes that the guy's movements are very fluid, and she realizes it's Kel. And I'm just like, finally. So one of the best moments of the book was when Lila went and had to kill the people who went after her because he thought that she had cheated in the match or something, and they put her in a box. And when she wakes up and she finally gets out of the box, she realizes she's late for the match. She doesn't realize that she's fighting Kel. And so she gets into the match and she realizes she's fighting Kel, and she goes full throttle, and he realizes that it's her, and I just like, my heart stopped. And she manages to overpower his element, and I'm just like, okay, Kel says that that's a hard thing to do. So how powerful is Lila? And it's that moment where I'm thinking, if she is not an Antari, I am gonna be so pissed. And then of course she overexerts her power, and Kel's worried about her, and then she goes to the ball, and she wears a dress, and I am freaking out because Lila does not do dresses, so she has got this plan in her head, and I am so excited for it. So we get to the ballroom scene, and Kel visibly tenses when he sees Lila. He asks her to dance, and it's beautiful. And I'm not crying, you are. And then he says he misses her, and I'm just like, my heart. And then of course, now that I know that Kel hates Alucard, I really wanted that moment where Alucard started talking to Lila, and Kel was like, how do you two know each other? And she goes, he's the captain of my ship. And he goes, there are dozens of ships, Lila, and you pick his. And then Rai shows up. Everybody's just like this big, giant mess, and Kel storms off. And I'm just like, this moment was everything that I wanted and more, honestly. So then the moment gets even better because Lila goes after Kel, and they have this really, really great kissing scene. And I know in the very first book I said that I really liked that it wasn't so focused on the kiss that they shared in the first book, and I really did like it in the first book because they were just friends. But now I'm just like, get these two together, please and thank you. It was so great. So then all this stuff happens at the end of this. So Lila goes into the next match and she collapses, and Kel rushes to her side and gets really pissed at her, and she gets pissed at him, and then he storms off, and then the king locks him up, which I really don't understand at all. Kel gets really pissed and leaves for Ray London, and so then Rai carves, the word sorry on the inside of his arm to bring Kel back. All of this stuff, all the things. One of the moments that I really loved was when Kel was locked up and Lila goes into Rai's room, and she notices that Rai is just really, really tense and very angry and sad, and she immediately goes, who do I need to kill? And I'm just like, oh my god, I love you guys so much. In the moment, I really wanted to know why Kel said yes to Ojka to go with her to White London. After I finished reading, I kind of got that, like, he felt bad that, White London was the way that it was, and he needed to go because it was Red London's fault because they closed the doors. But I'm still like, dude, why would you go with her? You know White London is trouble. You know that this girl who looks like an Antari but obviously isn't because she's got black stuff pouring down her face, like, this is not good. The common sense just gets flown out the window at this point, and I just don't understand. And then the whole end of this book is just a freaking whirlwind. Kel goes with Ojka, gets the collar put around him, his magic gets stripped off. I'm internally freaking out. Then we get the scene where Rai collapses and Alucard is all over his body and he's freaking out. Osaron takes complete control over Holland's body and decides he's gonna go to Red London, and then I'm freaking out again. And then the one moment where I just like completely collapsed was when Lila, in a rush of panic, goes and slices her hand, puts her blood on the wall, and is about to say Ostravars, and the whole book ends. And I'm just like, Oh my god, I'm so done. And so that was the end of my book talk for A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. So many feelings. If you guys have read this book, please let me know what your favorite or least favorite moment was. Tell me if you knew if Lila was an Antari before this book even happened. I feel like I should have known, but at the same time it was supposed to be a twist, so I'm not really that mad at myself that I didn't know, but still, I feel like I should have known. Honestly, like, I don't have a favorite book in the series, but this one came like pretty close to topping the other ones. I gotta be completely honest. And again, this series is just so great. So I don't know why you would have watched this if you hadn't read this book yet, but if you have and you haven't read this yet, please, highly recommended pick it up, please. You won't regret it. And so that is going to be it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you later. Bye!